Pew, pew, beep, beep, pew. That was weird, wasn't it, actually? I regret starting this that way. Hi, everyone! Welcome back. It's me again. Hello, it's been so long. Welcome to another video. I'm sure you're all so happy. I've had an update since the last video. Congratulations, me. New model. It looks good. I look good. It's cool. But you know why you're here. I know why you're here. So we're gonna go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes. I'm gonna slide myself over here. Boop, 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 boop. Get myself set up. We are going to get started. Oops. Not shrink myself again. With the presentation. You are all here today to learn. So look forward to that. We will be doing some learning. Uh, yeah. I don't know what I'm doing ever. So this is a reprise of almost the original video I ever did, a 5-minute thing about what a weeb is. And now I'm going to be doing that but for a whole bunch of weeb words. So you're all going to learn yourselves some weeb words. Weeb verbs. So this is Weeb Terminology 101. Let's get started. I clicked the thing. There we go. So we're going to start off with the basics. What are these Chinese cartoons? What are you watching? What are you talking about? You're insane. You should all probably know most of these words already. But I'm going to tell them to you anyway, for those of you that might not know. Starting with an anime. What is an anime? Well, the word is short for animation, and it specifically refers to any animation done in the style and aesthetics of Japanese animation. Some people will debate whether or not anime refers to only things made in Japan or by those from Japan, but that definition is starting to have a little bit more wiggle room. There's been stuff like the new Castlevania series on Netflix. Ruby was always a big one. People were always arguing about whether or not Ruby counted as an anime. But suffice to say, it generally means specifically from Japan, but there are a lot of things that are influenced by and use the art styles of uh, traditional Japanese, not traditional, but Japanese animation as aesthetics, and those generally count as an anime. Next, we have manga. Less commonly talked about, but still not a secret by any means. Manga is the comics and graphic novels from Japan. I include this as important because it is a very common source for what anime is based on. You also get a lot of elitism between people that have read the manga of a given story and those that have not. Um, just because you're usually way ahead of the anime, because the anime is being based on the manga and the manga's been out for forever. They're read like the Japanese language from right to left, top to bottom. Um, yeah, most of the anime you've ever heard of most likely was a manga first. And if it wasn't a manga first, then it was almost certainly a light novel. Light novel is just a term that basically just is like youth fiction. It's probably the exact same thing you'd see now in like Barnes and Noble. Youth fiction is about the same thing. It's just the Japanese term for it. And once again, this is following the aesthetics of anime and manga, but they are uh, youth novels that frequently get adapted to manga and also frequently get adapted to anime. And sometimes the manga gets adapted to the anime. I haven't been reading my examples. Dragon Ball Z is an anime. That was my first example. My second example was Dragon Ball Z was a manga first. Another trend with light novels is for having stupidly, ridiculously long names that kind of just describe the entire story instead of being a title. One of which is Konosuba, which is an actual shortened term for the full title in Japanese, which is like Konosubarashi Sekai Seifuku wo, I think. Anyway, in English, it is Konosuba, God's blessing on this wonderful world. That is a light novel that was also adapted to a manga that was also adapted to an anime. A good one. I like that one a lot. Now, moving out of just the types of media that you need to know about, we now will get to, oh, sorry, excuse me one second. Uh, just need to line myself up here. Sorry. Okay, there we go. Weeb. You are a weeb. You're watching this video. You're a weeb. Congratulations. A weeb, uh, once again, this is my original video, so here comes that again. Weeb is a shortened form of the term weeaboo, which originally referred to people on the internet who were not Japanese, who were obsessed with Japanese culture to the point of seemingly wishing they were Japanese. Weeaboo was a derogatory term almost exclusively. It was an insult. Um, because being a weeaboo is being someone that wishes they were a different, being obsessed with the culture to that point is weird and cringy. Now, over time, that got shortened to weeb, and also eventually weeb came to just mean people that like anime and manga and light novels and that culture. Um, Around that time that was starting to happen, it was sort of being reclaimed of sorts by the community to just refer to themselves. Originally, as like a self-deprecating kind of joke, it'd be very common for a weeb to like insult other people as they're being weebs with like the knowledge that they are also weeb. It was very ironic. And in fact, since that time that I put out my video explaining that, I would have stopped there. But now it's not even ironic or self-derisive anymore. Like there's still some jokes with that, but it is literally just come to mean someone that likes anime and manga. It is almost literally entirely been like reclaimed by that community and is no longer an insult, which is interesting because obviously I like etymology and what words mean, and so that's interesting to me that while it's not a ton of change, that this term has changed since I last made a video explaining it. So that's fun. Once again, the example is all of you are weebs. Sorry. Next slide. We have, oops, otaku. Technically, you're all still otaku. But back when weeaboo was used, another word that was more common was otaku, which is the Japanese term for someone that likes anime, manga, and video games. Um, when weeaboo was around, otaku was a word that people involved in the culture of liking anime online would use to refer to themselves, while they would be derisive towards weeaboos, people who took it too far. Um, since then, it has actually sort of fallen out of favor. It is not used very much here in the US. It is still a very common term in Japan because it is still just the term for like a nerd, a person that likes the nerdy stuff of anime and video games and whatnot. So it's still used uh, in Japan, and it's still kind of used in the US, but it's kind of been overtaken by the word weeb, which is used way more. Once again, the example for what an otaku is, all of you. You're all otaku. Congratulations. Um, Ye. Next, let me whoop, 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 whoop. Get myself back to position. Japanese point 101. Not even Japanese 1. We're not getting that far into it. For this, I'm putting on my hat. For I will be teaching you some very, 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 very basic Japanese. Not even enough to say anything or form a sentence, but just enough that you know some common words that weebs use in the community that they've borrowed from Japanese. Starting with honorifics, being san. There are other honorifics, but most common which are being san, chan, kun, and sama. Starting with, well, a general thing about honorifics, it is generally considered polite. Japanese is a very polite society. They care very much about that. If you do not know someone very well, you should not be using their name without an honorific of some sort. Usually, it's almost added on like a Mister or Mrs. or Sir. Um, So instead of like Mr. Smith, you would say Smithson. Um, and yeah, that's expected of anyone of any professional setting. You'd probably be using honorifics, and just in general with people you don't know that well, you will be using honorifics. It's only if you're really close that you just call someone by their personal or family name. So starting with san, that's probably the most common honorific. It is the one that's most close to just Mr. and Mrs. It is just uh, kind of like basic. You're in a professional setting, you're at work, you're like, oh, Smith-san, whoever-san. That's just kind of the default one. It's just being polite uh, to use that. It can be tacked on to both family name or first name, though most people usually go by their family name if you don't know someone that well. But that's neither here nor there. Next is Chan, which you will hear a lot in the anime community. Chan is used to refer to small children or like like a dog, like if a dog's cute, like a dog or other like small things that you think are cute or endearment. It's a term of endearment. Sometimes you might use it like for like a friend. Um, if you're older, you're almost kind of needling them. Like if you're in your like 30s and you call your best friend Mark Chan, like you're clearly kind of like heh, like we're friends and I'm messing with you a little bit. But it is kind of a term of endearment. The other place you see it most often used is for young women. Um, uh, would be someone Chan, Sakura Chan, which is where you see it most frequently in anime, um, or in anime culture, is referring to characters, female characters, as someone Chan. There's also a strange thing, not to get into it too much, of taking an object and turning it into an anime girl, um, like a mascot anime girl for whatever that object is, and then just calling it something Chan. You can look up like Internet Explorer Chan, that exists. The Wikipedia has a Wikipedia Chan. You can find that, stuff like that, but that's neither here nor there. Continuing on this, the next one we have is Kun. Very similar to Kun or to Chan, except while Chan is generally something you say to someone that you are in a higher position of, sort of like you use Chan for someone younger than you. Kun tends to be more of a peer. Uh, so it's something that you could refer to, like maybe someone at work that you're particularly close to, and like on the same level as, you might add kun. It is also used um, for young men. Chan for young women, kun for young men. Um, yeah. Lastly is sama. You will not see sama used as much because sama is like extreme respect or politeness. If you're like kami-sama, kami meaning God, uh, kami-sama is how you refer to a god. Um, Sama is it's like extreme respect or reverence. Use it when referring to gods, like somewhere. An interesting place you'd see it actually is in some places where you're like a service worker. You might refer to someone as sama. Not very often, but like if it's a thing going on there, like if someone's your like a master or whatnot, if it's like a maid cafe, they refer to you as sama. Um, because there's like a fake master dynamic there. But anyway, yeah, that's Sama. So not very common, but yeah, it's used for like extreme respect. Maybe you'd use it for like a CEO of a company or something like that, but then you might be kind of doing it as a joke. But anyway, next we have senpai and kohai. Um, Senpai, used more in the community than Kohai, refers to someone who is more experienced or in some way your superior in a given field or situation. That could just be someone that is older than you. Like if you're in school and you're in eighth grade and there's someone you know that's in ninth grade, they would be your senpai. They've been at school longer than you. If you work at a company, someone that has worked at that company is a senpai to you. Um, but yeah, age can play into it, just like any sort of dynamic like that. And it denotes that you should have like some level of respect um, from them, and also that they will be teaching you and helping you with whatever situation you're in. It kind of comes with that assumption of a dynamic. Kohai would be the opposite. Your senpai would refer to you as their kohai. And once again, this is from the you are higher, more experienced than someone, and it comes with the kind of connotation of someone that you are training and teaching and helping along because you are more experienced. Uh, for many of you, if I'm actually teaching you these things as we go through this video, I would be a weeb senpai. I've been a weeb longer than you. Maybe. I mean, some of you probably not. Some of you have been weebs longer than me. I don't know who's watching this video. Could be anyone. But if I'm teaching you stuff right now that you didn't know, then I would be your senpai. Another brief thing to talk about is in anime, there's a very common trope of someone falling in love with their senpai, and exclusively referring to them senpai, and also a almost joke of like senpai noticed me, of like, oh, there's like some older, like someone in a higher grade than you, or at work that's, oh, like they're so cool and dashing, and oh, they noticed me, like they talked to me, my senpai noticed me. That's a common trope that people will joke about online. Next, sensei. Sensei generally refers to teacher, though it is not actually exclusive to the role of teaching, as it is also frequently used for like doctors or someone that is particularly well versed in a given subject. More than just well versed, it has to be kind of still be academic. Um, but yeah, school teacher you would refer to as sensei. Doctors you would refer to as sensei. Maybe someone with a doctorate in general, not just in medicine, you may refer to as sensei. Um, there's also like martial arts instructors, other people that know a lot of stuff and presumably teach you that stuff. Though not always. Your doctor isn't always teaching you how to do medicine, they're just helping you. But I digress. Sensei is pretty straightforward. Next, we have baka. Baka is an insult. To call someone stupid or an idiot is probably the closest allegory. It can just be like an exclamation, like just baka, 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 just saying you're stupid. You could like directly call someone a baka. One of the most famous dumb phrases that's like a trope is for a character to say, "It's not like I like you or anything, baka." Um, yeah, I wish I hadn't said that out loud. Anyway, yeah, it's an insult and it's overused in the anime community by a certain type of character, which we'll get to later in the video. So I'll look forward to that. I think lastly on my general Japanese is kawaii. Kawaii sort of just means cute. It can be both a noun and an adjective. Something can be kawaii, which means it is cute, or kawaii can refer to the actual like quality of being cute. It kind of works the same way as the word cute, almost exactly. Um, it tends to be a little bit more specific in what it means by cute. Like it's very like soft, and fluffy or sort of. However, as culture has changed, there's actually like a bunch of different types of kawaii that people use. Like yami kawaii is when something is like cute in a like dark and kind of frightening way. I like yami kawaii things. There's also guro kawaii, which is specifically, if I remember correctly, that's the one that when something's ugly but in a cute way. Think of a pug. Like a pug's face is kind of weird and ugly, but it's cute. So you still might call that kawaii. So for my examples, Hatsune Miku is so kawaii and Kya the blobfish is so kawaii. That's an actual That is an actual example I've heard people use to describe how kawaii can mean something ugly is the blobfish. So if you've seen a blobfish, that's kawaii to some people. Okay, next we're just getting into weeb words. Words used by weebs for weebs. I'm tossing my hat for this. This isn't academic at all. This is cringe, probably, is what this is. But congrats, you're about to learn. Starting with moe. Coming hot off the heels of kawaii is moe. Moe is actually a bit more complicated than I thought it was when I set to make out this video. It originally um, it's a noun for the feeling one gets upon seeing or viewing or watching something particularly cute happen. So think, um, I don't know, maybe like you watch two toddlers and like one toddler like drops their sandwich on the ground and the other one like takes a half of their sandwich and gives it to the other toddler. That's cute. Well, I don't know if that's a good example. Anyway, yeah, it's like so it was originally even like almost like an exclamation of when something really cute happens and it's like, oh, my heart, my soul. That's kind of what moe is you would is it would it was like a trope or stereotype that you'd literally like yell like moe or whatever. Um, However, it has since actually become more commonly used as an adjective to describe something as this particular type of cute, and even as a like specific art style, um, characterized by what a lot of like post 2005 animes look like, where the characters have sort of larger eyes and rounder heads, and like they're just very like soft and cute looking as opposed to being heavily defined. That's the kind of moe uh, art style, I guess. And this is kind of how you'll see it used now. There are some other ways people use moe. Like one of the common terms I hear is gap moe, which is like when the way someone acts, there's some what's the word? What's the word? What's the word? Like a conflicting view of way someone is and the way they act. For instance, if like you saw a biker or an extremely scary looking goth chick and then they were super nice to a kid, that'd be gap moe. That it's like, oh, the fact that like they don't look particularly like cute and nice and then that they were is moe. That's super cute. That's amazing. Um, yeah. Yeah, and I'm not yeah, I said there's an example of since I can use moe and that isn't cringe. Um, so I'm not going to because I'm not cringe. Never been cringe. Never will be. Next, we have chibi. Chibi literally just means small or short. It's actually I believe it's a shortened form of the word of chibisuke, if I remember that right, which does mean small or short. But once again, it has come to mean a specific type of deformed art style, like ultra deformed art style, to make a character look extremely cute. I had an example here of on the left of being like a general anime character art style, and then the ones on the right being chibis of that character. They are in a chibi art style. We would refer to them as chibis, with the very large head, very diminutive and cutesy aesthetic. Adorable. Next, a big thing in anime culture, is the cat girl, or also a word for is nekomimi. Nekomimi is a portmanteau of the words neko, meaning cat in Japanese, and mimi, meaning ears, and nekomimi refers to cat ears. Characters with cat ears have nekomimi. Uh, it's actually a subset of a broader genre of kimono mimi, kimono meaning beast, mimi meaning ear, um, but cat girls with cat ears are by far the most common of all of them. But you'll see dog girls, you'll see bunny girls, you'll see whatever. Um, the actual concept, this was interesting, the actual concept of the cat, a cat girl, as it were, a girl that is uh, part cat, actually goes all the way back to 18th century Japan with stories of bakenekos, which are like ghost cats, evil cat spirits, transforming and tricking people in the form of women. Uh, and has actually come up a couple times since then. In the 19th century, I believe, was the first depiction of a beautiful woman with cat ears. I don't remember exactly where it was, but still older. Meanwhile, what popularized cat girls, or sort of brought cat girls into anime and manga, is actually the manga The Star of Cottonland, um, which is something new I learned. It was eventually animated. I don't know when the anime came out, but the manga came out in 1978. An example of a cat girl is me. I'm a cat girl. I have cat ears. I also have cat tails. Sometimes cat girls have cat tails. Usually ears, sometimes tails. Sometimes you get crazier than that. But the basis is cat ears. And yeah, cat girls are super common in almost everything now. They're all over anime, anything. Next, another uh, anime culture set of terms is the waifu and husbando. Literally just like English wife and husband, but when written out in katakana, which is the uh, written form of Japanese when used for foreign words. Um, yeah, just using the Japanese alphabet. It's not exactly an alphabet, but the way Japanese make their words, they can't translate directly wife, because you can't just have a consonant sound end it, so you get fu, so you get waifu, and same with husbando. Waifu became it did start in Japan to mean like, oh, that's my wife, that's my favorite character, that's the character that I wish I was with. I love her the most. She's great. She's my waifu. She's my favorite. It has since kind of meant just like favorite character, but it does still carry that connotation of romantic interest, that you think that character is cute, or you wish you could be in a relationship with them, or you like them, or whatever. Husbando is just the opposite. It's just male characters that you think are attractive, um, or a particular one. It is common to have one waifu or one husbando, though it is also common for that to rotate as more seasons of anime come out. Very few people tend to stay dedicated to a single waifu or husbando. Usually they pick a new one almost every year. Some example sentences using waifu is Haruko from Fooly Cooly is my waifu. She can hit me with a base anytime. And husbando would be Giro Zeppeli is my husbando. I don't know how to pronounce that name right, so yeah. Yeah, very common weeb word. Next, we have tsundere. Remember I talked about baka and that one sentence example I said? It's not like I like you or anything, baka. Um, this is the type of character that is a common phrase for. Once again, a portmanteau. It is a portmanteau of two onomatopoeias. Onomatopoeias being words like bang, boom, um, growl. Where I don't know if growl's an onomatopoeia. I don't know. Words that are supposed to be like their sound effects. Punch, pow. Those are still kind of onomatopoeias. Um, being the sound effects of tsun tsun and dere dere. Tsun tsun is supposed to be the sound effect of literally like putting your nose up in the air, like that when they like in manga or comics, and they were going to write someone turning away in disdain, or being otherwise being blunt or cold or whatnot. They would say tsun tsun. They would write that. And dere dere being when you're your heart's beating and you've been love struck by someone, the sound effect is dere dere. So tsun tsun event kind of just means like cold or blunt or rude, mean behavior towards someone, while dere dere is very affectionate and like friendly and kind behavior to someone, the type of behavior of someone who is in love. Thus, tsundere refers to a character that starts out cold and blunt and mean and doesn't want anything to do with you, but over the course of the anime, usually comes to fall in love with the main character. Originally, a tsundere describes, it doesn't mean this anymore, like modern day tsunderes don't follow this, but a tsundere originally meant to describe a character arc, a character that at the start of the show was cold to the main character and by the end of the show was in love with them and kind to them and love struck. Nowadays, a tsundere tends to be this like constantly back and forth. They they're constantly putting on a cold front and they're constantly being mean and they're like, no, I don't like you when like they do, and then they're just trying to hide their feelings and then they never really change. Tends to be what a tsundere is nowadays. Taiga from Toradora kind of fits more of the modern definition of a tsundere. She continues that standoffish attitude the whole time. So does Rin Tosaka, our image example here. Meanwhile, Kaguya from Love is War is actually a decent example of a newer tsundere. So, like I said, it's not very common anymore for you to get that original definition, but Kaguya from Love is War actually follows that definition by starting off cold and uncaring and calculating and mean, and by the end of the show, um, not even close to like that anymore. But yeah, tsundere spawned off a whole slew of deres, which were just a whole bunch of different portmanteaus of different character tropes and archetypes, common stereotypes for characters. There's kudere, which is someone that starts off, I'm trying to remember the exact, because it and dandere are very similar. Kudere, I believe, is the one that starts off someone very like quiet and like doesn't want to talk and is like not just like mean like a tsundere, but just like completely like not there, blank face, doesn't have anything to say to anybody, and then eventually is in love with you. Um, Dandere is someone that's shy and meek, and then eventually in love with you. They all end with being in love with you because wish fulfillment garbage. Um, People have never this time a new thing, a girl that actually just hates you. Anyway, a yandere, once again a portmanteau, comes from the term yanderu, which literally means to be sick. Um, Someone who is ill. Yanderu, you are ill. Um, and in this case, it means a character that is insane and in love with you. Generally, violently in love with you, possessive, and scary. There are different types of yanderes. Sometimes they love you so much that they want to cut you open to see what's inside you, and because they're weird, they want to eat you because they want to be one with you. So they could be a little threat to you, or they're yanderes that are like frightening, possessive. Like you come home and you're like, you smell like another girl, I'm gonna stab you. I saw you talking to another girl at school, I'm going to kill them. Or a yandere that hasn't actually talked to you yet, that keeps a whole bunch of pictures of you in their closet and has hair clippings that they keep and is creepy and stalks you. Um, yeah, so yeah, they're mentally insane girls that love you. Yuno from Mirai Nikki is not only a yandere, she actually sort of popularized the yandere trope in anime. However, I believe the original yandere is actually from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but Yuno definitely popularized it in modern anime and stuff. Next, we're going to move on to some terms for some common genres of anime. Not very many uh, common genres of anime, but a couple of them. Just some of the big ones that you hear about a lot. Starting with isekai. Hey, isekai. Isekai is a word that literally just means other world. Sekai means world. Isekai, different world. And it specifically refers to any media, anime, manga, light novel, where a character starts out in our world or starts out in their home world and somehow gets transported to a different world, usually a fantasy inspired world, um, where they then live out kind of, it usually ends up being a kind of power fantasy or wish fulfillment. They're very common for being wish fulfillment. I was a nerd and nobody liked me, and then I got hit by a truck. And now I'm in a fantasy world where I have like a crazy power and a whole bunch of random girls like me a lot, and I'm going to save the world and become the hero. They tend to be very wish fulfillment and like self-inserty. This led to like a huge boom in them, and there just being a ton of them, all being really uninspired and the same. So isekai has kind of been it's because kind of like trash. It's garbage. Every season there's two or three different isekai, and usually they're not very different or interesting or original. Um, yeah, they play a lot into power fantasy wish fulfillment and don't come up with a lot of their own stuff anymore, as evidenced by this image I've included of the city in three different isekais that the character starts living in or gets transported to. And it's this same shot, and it's the exact same city because they can't even bother to change that. Um, so a usage of the word isekai might be uh, looks like I died and woke up in another world with my smartphone is this season's generic isekai trash. Yeah, there's still good isekai, but boy howdy is it overcrowded. Shonen. Shonen is a genre that is specifically designed to appeal to young men and boys. And actually, I thought that shonen originally meant young boys and then was adapted as it's a genre for them. It actually was the genre first, but since then, the word has become used for young boys, which is kind of interesting. Um, it's they all kind of fit very similar uh, tropes and stuff. There's a lot of stuff that counts as shonen, but like the stereotypical shonen anime is a young man um, has some sort of like single special power or thing, and he ends up making some friends and fighting a whole bunch of people and honing his abilities. And they tend to be long, and they fight a bunch of villains, and then they'll like get beat up by the villain and lose, but then they'll always get back up again because they believe in themselves or they believe in their friends or like I can do it because I have you guys or because yeah, and it's always yeah, I don't know. It's very similar. Um, there's some good shonen, not always a lot of good shonen. Um, Demon Slayer is a pretty good shonen. My Hero Academia is a decent shonen. Black Clover is a bad shonen. You know, stuff like that. Naruto is a stereotypical example of a shonen. Very fits it to the T. Young man coming of age story kind of thing. Um, Growing up, training, always fighting, always battle arcs for some reason. Um, Very common genre. Next we have slice of life. Slice of life it's a pretty broad genre. It could be a lot of things. It could be a comedy. It could be romance. It could be still like fantastical in some way. But it just means that the events of the show, what we're watching in the show, is just kind of some day to day goings on for these characters. Um, Ow, sorry, I just turned on a light in my face. Um, So it could just be we're just following a character in school, and maybe there's some like small thing about it that makes that interesting, but it's just going to be day to day life. It's going to be things that could happen in day to day life. It doesn't always happen in like a regular world. You could get a slice of life about like a unicorn going to fantasy school. And as long as it's just their day to day of going to school and making friends and kind of regular events that might happen to them in that setting, it would still be a slice of life. So like low stakes, they're usually just kind of fun and simple to watch, not a lot of engagement required. They're just funny isekai. Or not isekai. Why did I say isekai? Fun, funny, short slice of life. Bocchi the Rock is the example of a comedy slice of life. Yeah. Next, we have two genres. We're kind of grouped together, being yuri and yaoi. Uh, these are both slang for media heavily about gay romance or have gay overtones. Yuri is specific for girls' love or lesbian romance. Yuri is literally just the Japanese word lily, which has always kind of represented beauty and purity and women, and kind of ended up becoming a slang term for girls' love stories. Um, Seeing as it's only about women and whatnot. Yaoi has a more interesting history to it. Yaoi was the male equivalent of Yuri. It's for stories about boys' love, gay men, uh, and it's actually an acronym, and it stands for Yama Nashi, Ochi Nashi, Imi Nashi, which literally means no climax, no point, no meaning. And this was a self-deprecating, ironic term used by people who enjoyed the boys' love genre that was coined in the 80s, I believe, and it was specifically making fun of the fact that at the time, most boys' love work uh, didn't have any like meaningful story. Like it was just fan service to there are two guys and then they make out or make love and then it ends and there's no story, nothing happened, we don't know how they met, there's no romance, there is no climax to the story. There's no point. There's no meaning. It's just I wanted to draw two boys kissing. Um, but that was a very ironic and self-deprecating term that they liked, and has since just become synonymous with the genre, and now just refers to anything where uh, it's about gay men. Another common term is yuri bait or yaoi bait. This refers to stuff where it like heavily implies but never outright confirms that characters are gay. Like, oh, this show has an all-female cast, and these two people are really good friends, like really, really good friends, and they like to hug each other and care about each other and worry about each other. And so you start watching it because you're a fan of Yuri stuff, and you're like, oh, cool, they're gonna be gay, and then nothing ever happens, and they are just really, really good friends. That'd be Yuri bait. They baited you into watching it because you thought it would be more than it is. So some examples: Revolution A Girl Utena. I don't know how to pronounce that. Is a Yuri anime, while Hitalia is a yaoi bait anime. It's not an anime that actually is yaoi, but it's one that uh, it baits a lot of people that like yaoi. Anyway, next we have our last couple things are some anime adjacent terms. This is stuff that weebs like or are involved with or are generally part of the culture, but aren't necessarily anime. Starting with the one closest to anime, cosplay. Uh, a term that actually did come from Japan and is just the shortened form is just costume play, cosplay, and it just refers to dressing up, creating costumes to dress up as your favorite characters from anime, manga, or video games. Um, Cosplay is not actually like exclusive to anime or things in the anime sphere of stuff, but that is where that term came from. It is since used for anything. If you go to a convention and someone's dressed up like Spider-Man, that's cosplay, though people don't always refer to it as that outside of um, the anime culture. An example would be I cosplayed as Kobeni for Halloween. I'm not showing pictures of that. Next is a Vocaloid. A Vocaloid was a voice synthesizer program that originally was released in 2004, and it came with a bunch of voice banks of like virtually created voices. And the whole idea was you could piece together a song that including vocals and singing without recording anyone singing. So you'd have this was originally released in Japan, I believe. So you'd have like each of the um, different Japanese like characters that you could like tsu, ku, ko, whatever, and you could piece them together and pitch them to then make a virtual song, and then make your own backing stuff and like that. So it just allowed you to make singing without having a singer. So a single person could produce vocal music. It became well, part of the reason it became widely known is that each voice bank that each had its own kind of tone and qualities to it had a different character assigned to them. Um, with the most famous and most used voice bank being Hatsune Miku. Um, so she kind of became the face of Vocaloid. Um, and so it spawned its own genre of music with tons of people creating Vocaloid music and people singing covers of that, and it's really taken off. There's thousands of artists. There's a lot of fun songs. If you want to hear some fun Vocaloid songs, I would recommend Rolling Girl. If you look up Rolling Girl Vocaloid, you should come up with that. That's a fun song. And Hole Dwelling by Kikuo, Kikuo, is a song I particularly enjoyed. That's another Vocaloid song. Um, yeah, Hatsune Miku, example, Hatsune Miku, pictured here, is the most famous Vocaloid. So they had like a lot of character art for these characters they designed for each of the voice banks. And lastly, VTuber. Wow. Literally just a shortened form of virtual YouTuber. It refers to any content creator or streamer that instead of using their own face, um, uses a virtual model to represent themselves in their content. Um, while it had existed before this, the uh, creator most responsible for VTubers becoming well known was Kizuna Ai, who got really big on YouTube. There were a couple of other bigger VTubers that helped kind of ramp it up and make it more common and more well known. With eventually there being talent agencies dedicated toward this, such as Niji Sanji and Hololive, who are really big now, that um, hire VTuber talents and run them as a talent agency. Um, and now VTubing is really big. There's tons of famous streamers that are VTubers, such as Gargura is one of the English talents from Hololive. Iron Mouse is another very famous VTuber. And me, I'm a VTuber. Wow, look at this. I have a rig. Look at me go. Um, yeah. Along with my shameless plug, I have a Twitch and a YouTube and a Twitter where I make my content and post it to. And if you like this video, you should check me out there. Shameless plug. Because I get to do that because it's my video and you can't stop me. Anyway, with that, that's it. That is my short intro to Weeb terminology. So that should give you a little bit of explanation that if some of your Weeb friends are hanging out and talking about anime and they're like, wow, that tsundere character from the new isekai is really annoying. I don't like the weird senpai dynamic, kohai dynamic they have there. And you're like, really? But this character from that show is my waifu. They're my favorite. I love them so much. And then it's like, wait, waifu? You had a different waifu last season in that slice of life show, remember? And yeah, words that hopefully now you can follow and possibly understand. Anyway, thank you for coming to this video. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.